Hello, sisters. Momo is here today. She was like over there. Like my bed is over there. She was all like. So I thought maybe she would be chill if I put her here. But then she decided to viciously lick herself while wearing her collar, so I took her collar off. Maybe I can like train her to hang out here by every time I put her here taking off her collar. Like she doesn't hate it, but she doesn't like it. Like she's fine with it, but when it's off she seems happier. So there's a practical purpose for her collar. I live with another cat, and if they can hear each other coming, then they don't like try to murder each other. So tell us your favorite cat food flavor. She only eats salmon. If you buy her chicken or beef, she like literally will not eat it. She'll just like stare at you like you expect me to eat that. Mama, cutie cute. She's purring. Anyway, okay. Something I like about reading ebooks instead of paper books, like I prefer to read paper books, but there's like two good reasons ebooks are better. One, it's like, okay, can you let go, please? Yeah. I can just like put my iPad and like not have to hold it and like can just flip the pages, which is nice. Another thing is I can highlight stuff so that when I want to do the discussion, I can like come back to it easily. Yeah. Uh, you guys didn't have a lot to say in the live chat of the last thingy. Oh, some new women found it, which is great. Okay. So I didn't do a discussion on the virginity chapter because honestly, it was like pretty overwhelming and mostly seemed like a book report. Like not is that not like as a negative thing. Just it didn't seem a lot of like broad sweeping statements on like this is like what virginity means to like society that I could like extrapolate to like my own life or like the current times or current feminism or whatever. I mean, obviously it did in some ways, but I also think I was more tired, so it wasn't like clicking as much. This was not that. So let's go back. I would say like especially the last 10 pages of this. Okay, well I guess I only like highlighted like four different things. Okay. Um Also, where's everyone? I put the link in the thing. Mama, you cutie pie. Oh, you cutie cute. Yeah. Okay. Um. So, what are the chapters of this book? Because I feel like. Yeah. No. Okay. This chapter. Occupation and collaboration. Like even the title implies like a war. A war ground, right? And she mentions like at least three times this idea of like the little girl taking the mirror and trying to like see what's down there, right? And throughout this, she mentions like, and obviously up to this point in the book, she's really hammered home that the concept of intercourse is necessarily like a possessive act by the man, right? That it's necessarily like an invasion of the female. It's necessarily an abdication. Or maybe abdication is not the right word because it's not like an act one does to oneself, maybe, but it necessitates abdication of self, right? So you think about the little girl who's been told for the first time what is that hole, that the hole is down there, right? Even she even like directly addresses this. She's like even the concept of like the hole implies that it's there like for male penetration. Like that's the purpose of it. That's why it's called that. Um and really what this the first like thing that I got, the first thought I had in my head that I couldn't get out of my head while I was reading this chapter was like the introduction to girls of what their bodies are, what their anatomy means, right? Because, like, I remember being told that I had a vagina and that it was there for male penetration. At that point, I had never seen a penis in any way, like digitally, in person, hard, soft. I had no concept of what a penis was. But I remember, like, I don't think I looked with a mirror. I think I felt around with my hands and I would basically, like, how's that work? It's the same thing that she discussed in the book. She was like, how is it going to fit there? Isn't that going to hurt? I feel like most girls, when they learn about that, they have that kind of idea. And I'm sure a lot of girls learn about it from different things. Like, I know a lot of girls who learned about what a vagina was, like, for the first time from, like, seeing their dad watching porn, something, like, much more visceral and horrifying, right? Anyway, um, so something that a lot of radical feminists kind of toy around with in the last couple of years, well, not couple, few years, like maybe the last 10-ish years, and especially a lot of the younger re-identified women, not necessarily younger, just re-identified women, they talk about kind of inoculating girls for puberty. That's not like the term they would use, but a lot of them, what their goal is that we need to explain to girls what their body is, what their reproductive organs are, what the hormonal cycle will do to their body, and make them not scared of it. Make them feel comfortable and aware and in power with that knowledge about what their body is and how it's going to affect them and all that. So they kind of want to inoculate girls to the fear that comes with puberty. And I always kind of thought about it in terms of like, just like, I guess I didn't think about it in a super ideological way. I thought about it more in terms of like medicine, more in terms of like what are like the physical realities that you need to know about, right? Different types of hymens, different types of hormonal conditions, like stuff that's not really talked about that you could find super interesting and not interesting, super necessary to know, right? But reading this chapter, all I could think about was um how can you tell a girl that she has a vagina and what a vagina is for, or the potentiality of what men will think it's for, or whatever, however you want to like contextualize that, without them being scared? Like, I remember I have like a very specific memory of being in like the fourth grade or something and being outside on the soccer field. There wasn't a soccer game, it's just where I was. And the two school bullies were there who were like my friends. They were both boys and they were joking around. I don't remember what the words being spoken were, but basically they were like, "You have a vagina, lol, that's so funny. Like you're a girl, that's so funny." And I was like, "What does that mean? What's going on?" They told me, and I was like, "What the fuck?" I literally thought they were like pulling my leg or something because I was like, "That's insane. Like that doesn't make any fucking sense." And then I have another visceral memory of being 14. I already thought I was trans at this point. Of walking into the subway after school and I was binding and I was wearing baggy clothes and trying to cover my body and thinking, um, thank God that because I'm living my life this way now, I can like circumvent like the correct use of my vagina. Like I can avoid that. Anyway, my point is, so much of my behavior as like a young woman before I would say I internalized radical feminism when I was 20. So before I like internalized radical feminism, so much of my behavior was motivated by fear, which is like what talks about at the beginning of this chapter. And so much of that fear came from like this really strange mix of like ignorance and like just enough knowledge. Like just enough knowledge to know like that most of my friends who had had sex, it was painful. Just enough knowledge to know that like your hymen like should break at the first time and like bleed and like that's scary. Like I had just enough knowledge to be scared and not enough knowledge to know that like I could exercise authority over myself most of the time. I could avoid most of that stuff. Most of like I just the strange configuration of ignorance and just enough knowledge to be scared like really put me in this like fight or flight all the time. Like I thought so much about sex and it had nothing to do with like arousal on my part or like the desire to have sex or like a fantasy of what good sex would be. Like it was literally just like fear. All the thinking I had about sex when I was younger was fear. Anyway, I think it's like a useful concept. Yeah, I know. Mm. I think it's like a useful thing to think about of like if you have a daughter or a niece or whatever and you're introducing them to like these are the parts of your body and then introducing them to the fact like these are what potentially some people might say about them or some people might try to do with them or not them because that's dehumanizing you, right? To be aware that maybe to us, now that we're older, we don't see our body as this war ground, like in a visceral, internal sense of like feeling physical anxiety in your chest over it, like I did when I was a teenager. But like, just, I don't know, to help them not to be so scared. Because, like, when I think about it, when I look back at a lot of my decisions to like go into queer shit, a lot of my decisions to like identify as a trans man or present as a trans man or whatever the fuck, on a very base level, I think I was instinctually a feminist. And by that I mean I think I was instinctually aware that like something like being penetrated by a man had a much deeper metaphysical um meaning than just that thing had happened to me, right? I had like all of these instincts that like all this stuff was like really important and like really big. And I didn't know how to understand it. And I didn't know what to do with that. All I knew was that it was a big fucking deal and I didn't understand it. I knew that I didn't understand it and I was scared of it. Anyway, okay. So yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking about through the first like half of the chapter. Okay. Okay, so I highlighted a couple things, like phrases that I thought we could talk about, and like please feel free to, contribute or not, whatever. Um, so this one phrase, our meanings also exist in our bodies. What we are, what we do, what we physically feel, what we physically know. And there is no personal psychology that is separate from what the body has learned about life. So this to me is like a pretty multifaceted statement because on one hand she mentions women's unlikelihood of orgasming through intercourse. And I'm like, how many, I don't know, I can't remember the exact data, but it's pretty staggering. It's like a huge number. It's like the majority of women have experienced pain during intercourse. And the majority of those women say that, like, this is more recent data, like from the last couple years. The majority of women say that if they experience pain during intercourse, they're not going to tell their male partner about it and stop. So 60%, that's what I was thinking. Thank you, Lavender. Also, hello, Karina. And so when I think about our bodies have like a physical knowledge of what they've experienced, I'm like, of course, aside from the fact of like the clitoris and like the shape of it and blah 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 and like the way men have sex, of course, if you are getting like in the mood or you're like approaching a sex act with a man and your physical knowledge of the sex act involves pain, you're not in the psychological place to experience pleasure. Like, of course. Also, with this idea of like the physical knowledge of your body and how it impacts your psychology, I'm like, how many women are watching porn now? And not even women, like girls, like under 18 are watching porn and masturbating. And I'm like, so you've taught your body this physical knowledge that like has a deep impact on your psychology. Like it's just, I don't know. This phrase evoked so many different thoughts in me. I also was thinking about okay, I kind of feel like on the fence about bringing up trans crap all the time, but like I think about it a lot because I have like so much fucking knowledge of it, so I'm gonna just bring it up. There's been some super honestly asinine and dumb as fuck Twitter discussions about like autoandrophilia, which is like the concept that FTMs get off on the idea of being men and all of this. Like basically they're trying to apply like a reverse AGP to females, and I'm like, that's not how females work. Like you necessarily have to be a man to have a fetish, but like okay. Anyway, so when I read this phrase, yeah, sure enough, Lavender. So when I read this phrase, I thought, well, the first trans thing I thought about was the physical trauma of losing parts of your body, right? The physical experience of like stabbing yourself with a fucking needle, the physical experience of like having a really high libido, right? The physical experience of having intense muscle cramps after an orgasm, things that are like related to testosterone, right? But after that, my next thought was okay, so I talked about this like 2 years ago in a video, which is pretty popular, but I think I kind of need to do like a part two updated version of it. There is a growing number of women who are FTMs who consider themselves gay men who only want to have sex with men. Throughout this chapter, Andrea Dworkin talks about women objectifying themselves, which means to dehumanize themselves, to turn themselves into like the object of desire for the man. And like, that's what the FTMs are fucking doing. They have this, realistic or not, right, idea of what a gay man wants to have sex with, which, like, let's be real, most of these men are like bisexual or pansexual or literally fucking straight who call themselves pansexual so they can sleep with these women. And they try to physically become that through surgery and hormones and whatever, voice coaching and, you know, whatever, the list goes on. They want to physically become that thing. So for them, the sex is not different from the sex of a straight woman. The intercourse is the same, whether it's like anal or vaginal, whatever. The mental aspect is the same. They're completely removing their humanity from the situation. They're completely removing the meaning of it from the situation. Like, the meaning of it happens before and after, not during. During the sex act, because I've talked to some of these women, because there's a lot of detransitioners who went through this, right? And I would say, like, I don't have any like data, obviously, but I would say most of them are actually lesbians. By doing this, they are able to objectify themselves to a degree that I don't think the average woman having sex with a man could objectify herself. They are able to dissociate from their body to such an extent that, like, their entire experience of the intercourse itself is like a fantasy in their head, or the entire experience of the intercourse itself is through the eyes of the man that they're with, to like an extent that, like, most of them don't want orgasm when they're doing that. Most of them don't have any like intention or ambition. This doesn't even fucking occur to them. That's not why they're there, right? They're there to give the man what they want. By giving the man what they want, they think that they're gaining something. Kind of what she says here, right? They're gaining like a psychological comfort, that they've accomplished something, that they've done what they're there for, that, I don't know, something like that, right? Anyway, just the last like 10 pages of this. Like, I mean, this is the next phrase, which applies to the same fucking thing I just said. Objectification may well be the most singly destructive aspect of gender hierarchy, especially as it exists in relation to intercourse. The surrender occurs before the act that is supposed to accomplish the surrender takes place. What has she given? Why conquer? She has given in. Why conquer her? Like, think about these FTMs that they're like, you can see based on their like online presence, every act they've made with regard to physical transition, every act they've made with regard to like their social presentation. I don't mean like physical, I mean like the stuff that they say, the way that they talk about themselves, the way that they associate, like, I'm associated with gay men or whatever. Everything that they say is like a signal. I have already given in. You don't need to conquer me. Like, I'm here to please you. Like, everything that everything they do, every act they take part in, every message they communicate is, I'm already submissive, use me, right? And it's like, that obviously comes from like a place of deep self-dehumanization, of deep self-denial, right? And it's like, if you're a lesbian and you feel it's inevitable you're going to have sex with men, or you need to have sex with men, or however you want to contextualize it, How is that not like the best like solution to the problem? Like if you think that you need to have sex with men, right? Then dehumanizing and dissociating yourself to the furthest possible end of the extreme would be like the best cope, right? Like she talks about in here. She doesn't use the word cope, but she talks about like a survival mechanism or whatever. Anung says sadism doesn't have any limits. Yeah. Lavender says, or from males telling you lie back and enjoy it. The conquest is inevitable anyway. You might as well minimize damage. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, um, like I'm also thinking about I saw this picture on Twitter yesterday of a woman who'd had a facelift and the incisions were all like infected and inflamed. And so I don't want to make this all about FTMs, but to me they're kind of like the most extreme version of body modification at the moment. But like for a second, let's not talk about that. Um the amount of women getting cosmetic work done right now is at like an all-time high, right? So I'm just going to read this paragraph again. To become the object, she takes herself and transforms herself into a thing. All freedoms are diminished as she is caged, even in the cage docile, sometimes physically maimed, movement is limited. She physically becomes the thing he wants to fuck. It is especially in the acceptance of object status that her humanity is hurt. It is a metaphysical acceptance of lower status in sex and in society, an implicit acceptance of less freedom, less privacy, less integrity. In becoming an object so that he can objectify her, so that he can fuck her, she begins a political collaboration with his dominance. And then, when he enters her, he confirms for himself and for her what she is, that she is something, not someone, certainly not someone equal. Okay, so I think about like, I honestly can't name any of these women. You know, every couple of months on the internet, you see one of these like Barbie women or whatever, or like these like Kardashian wannabe type women who like their breasts are large to the point of like this is definitely like a health issue for like your back, right? Their their asses are so big that like I don't know how they could sit down in the average chair. Like their whole body is off balanced. They only wear high heels, so like their tendons in their feet are fucked up. Like they had so much plastic surgery on their face that they can't move their mouth properly and like that kind of thing. And I see these women, and whenever you see them interviewed, or if you see them talking, or if you look at their Instagram posts and see what the captions are, all they talk about is how attractive they are, what their beauty products are that they use, like everything that's public facing. It's not about their humanity. It's not about their feelings. It's not about their goals, their ambitions. It's literally only about their aesthetic. Nothing else. It's complete, right? And you know when a woman goes to that extreme that anybody who looks at her knows that she's had a lot of plastic surgery. Like it's impossible not to know that. Um when she's walking down the street and guys give her looks, to her that's validation, right? Like this to me is like the ultimate endpoint of like this collaboration and complicity that um Dworkin's talking about, and it's so sad to me because I'm like, when this woman is alone by herself, you know, and I don't know, like something happened, like her dog died, or like, you know, something that happened that has nothing to do with the way that males see her, or the way that she is a sex object, or the way that she views herself sexually. Like when she's really alone and she's really feeling like feeling herself as a person, like she's put so much time and energy, and like her entire personality revolves around the aesthetic that she's searching for. Like it must be so fucking lonely. It must be so fucking like, I don't know. It just makes me sad. Um Well, Lavender, that is kind of already happening. Lavender says, where will the next generation go in terms of body modification? The only place left to go is amputation, cheek. Kind of like there's women who amputate parts of their like labia or parts of their clitoris because they want them to look more aesthetically pleasing. Women who amputate parts of their toes because they want them to look good in high heels. Women who amputate the bottom rib off their rib cages because they want to have a slimmer waist. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's pretty horrifying. Anung says the beauty standard has certainly shifted. Oh, go up to arms and legs. I mean, yeah. Certainly shifted to the extreme and the bizarre. The opposite of the natural look of the 70s. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so this brings me to my next point quite conveniently. So the act goes beyond complicity to collaboration, but collaboration requires a preparing of the ground, an undermining of values and vision and dignity, a sense of alienation from the worth of other human beings. And this alienation is fundamental to females who are objectified because they do not experience themselves as human beings of worth except for their value on the market as objects. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning of the conversation. So you have this little girl who's been told, you have a vagina. The purpose of that hole is for men to penetrate, whatever. That's like the standard types of things people tell kids, I think. She now sees this Kardashian lookalike, whatever, walking along. She hears people joking, oh, men think that's hot, whatever. When she thinks, like, the relationship between her body as a war ground and that woman's body as a war ground, like, what is the message that she's getting and how is that impacting her fear, right? Pretty fucking significant, I think. And in June and July of last year, I got into some fights with women online about femininity and makeup and all that shit. And everybody is like, you need to just let it go because you can't change anyone's mind. And I'm like, fine. And I do kind of regret like the tenacity with which I had these arguments. However, I think about these little girls who are not yet self objectifying, who are not yet self sexualizing, right? And they look at their moms, and they look at their big sisters, and they look at their school teachers, and what do they see? They see all these women who are self sexualizing and self objectifying to the umpteenth fucking degree. And they think either I should be like that, or if I don't want to be like that, something is wrong with me. I'm not saying that's a new thing. Obviously, it's not new. But I don't know how. And I mean, like, maybe I need to have more grace or whatever. Like, maybe I'm being too, like, not compassionate enough. But I don't know how you can be, like, a mom who considers herself, like, a feminist and self-objectify and like this, preparing the ground, right? Signaling your subservience and know that you're demonstrating that behavior for the young girls around you and say that that's a neutral act. Say that that has no impact on the girls around you. It fucking has an impact, right? Every girl who doesn't want to shave her legs and has to look at all of the females in her family that have shaved her legs and know that she's the odd one out and know that she is the one who's a freak. Be like, you know, if your daughter wants to stop shaving her legs, in solidarity, stop shaving your legs with her. You know what I mean? Like, my point is just this idea that like the neutral position is for all women to engage in femininity and that it's no big deal if one girl doesn't want to engage in femininity is completely fucking dumb. Of course it's a big deal if she doesn't want to do it, if everyone around her is doing it, right? I don't know. It just makes me angry when like like women just don't want to see it because it's like upsetting to them. I'm like, of course, especially when it's these GC women talking about, oh, why are the girls transitioning? Because like hyperfemininity and like hyper objectification has gotten to such a degree that there is no like middle ground on it now, right? Like we need to make the middle ground. And it's not that hard for you as an individual to stop like waxing every single part of your body and wearing high heels and covering your face in like 5 fucking layers of BB cream and shading and all that crap. Sorry, contouring, whatever. To make sure that the teenage girls around you know that like that's a fucking option and that if they do it, they're not the only fucking one doing it. Anyway, Welcome to my TED Talk. Thank you. Okay. Um, I liked this like National Socialist. It's capitalized. I think that what it means is like the nationality of men, like socialist, like that they're on the side of the men. I don't know. That's funny. Um, I don't know if it came across in the reading at all, but to me as like the reader, I got it and it was funny. Mama, it's a goody good. Perfect me, mama. Oh, bye. Okay. I don't know why I highlighted this actually. I'm gonna read like a whole like 2 sentences or whatever. That collaboration fully manifests when a woman values her lover, the National Socialist, above any woman, anyone of her own kind or class or status, may have simple beginnings. The first act of complicity that destroys self respect, the capacity for self determination and freedom, readying the body for the fuck instead of for freedom. The men have an answer. Intercourse is freedom. Maybe it is second class freedom for second class humans. Okay, this is my point with this. It's good to have you here, Turf Mail. Okay, so my thought about this was a girl's first steps into self objectification, right? So, you're a little girl, you have a mom and a sister and an aunt, and you have your peers at school and wherever, like dance class or something. And most, if not all, are self objectifying and self sexualizing. And you take the first step. You put on lipstick for the first time, you shave your legs for the first time, you go out and buy a push up bra for the first time, whatever the thing is, right? And you're probably doing it to fit in with your peers, right? But when you do it, then you feel that sense of something has shifted, right? You you know on some level that you're like preparing for the fuck, as Dworkin puts it here. And I think that's fucking scary. And I think what girls are put in a difficult bind, like fit in and take this step of complicity to something that's, scary and life changing, sex with men, or be the odd one out. I don't know. I just think it's like it made me think about that. I don't really have like a point, I guess, other than it made me think about that. Momo, what is your problem? Can I help you? Okay. You want scritches? You want scritches? I scritch. Okay, anyway, those are my thoughts. I guess the final thought wasn't a very solid one, but those are my thoughts. Okay, I have to go. Um, eat food. Actually, let's give you a sec. Any of the 6 of you who've been here for a while, it's a different language. Yeah. Oh, that was something else that I had thoughts about was the language thing. Did I not highlight that? Well, whatever. I'm tired now. My brain isn't working properly. So, and like I said the last couple days, I want to keep my discussion periods concise. So, I'm not gonna like go through everything with a fine tooth comb. And give you guys a minute. If you have any final thoughts on the book, or if you have any final questions for me. I don't know if I'm gonna read more today. I think I'll definitely read more tomorrow. I want to pace myself. Like yesterday, I think I read too much. So actually, I'm conclusively saying I'm not reading any more today. Tomorrow, I'll read chapter 8 or chapter 8, part 1, or whatever. Let's look at the thing. I think I can get through the whole thing tomorrow, especially because it's a Sunday. Like have breakfast and like have a shower and stuff, and then I'll like sit down and read the whole chapter 8. I think it'll take me roughly 10 minutes longer than this one took me. Anung says, this book is timeless. It's as relevant today as it was in the 80s. Lavender says, Dworkin was always right. She's timeless. I'm going to say 11 a.m. tomorrow because I did 11 a.m. today and it worked pretty well. I woke up this morning and did some like chores and housekeeping and crap like that. And then I sat down at like 10:45 and updated some stuff on my YouTube channel, and I seemed to work out good. I don't think I was too tired. I think it was pretty articulate with the reading today and pretty coherent with the commentary today. So I think let's do this again tomorrow. And I think, wait, please hold. I think Monday I don't have work in the morning. I think I only have work at night. I'll check my schedule. Yeah, okay. So, I'm gonna 100% for sure, let's do this tomorrow at 11 a.m. And tentatively, we're gonna do Monday at 11 a.m. Actually, I might need to do Monday early because I have light and work at night. Okay, whatever. Tomorrow, 11 a.m., we're gonna do the next chapter. All right. Thank you all for being here. Thank you again for your commentary as always. Oh, I emailed Bonnie J. Morris about the Disappearing Elle book, so I like thanked her for the book. And I told her like how it influenced me and what I was going to do differently. And then I also like at festivals and with women and stuff. And then I also asked her if she knew how to contact Sarah Valentine or Flowing Margaret Johnson about the Dyke game. So we'll see if she answers me or what she has to say. Yeah. Okay. Have a great weekend, guys. Anung says authors need to hear the impact they have on us. Yeah. I'm going to make it like a point of now emailing all the women whose books I read if they're still alive. Yeah. If I can find their contact information. Like, I would email Marilyn Fry, even though I'm sure she's like, you know, super old and not involved in things, but I would still want her to know that I like her book was like transformative for me, but I can't find her contact information. Like, should I contact her publisher? Like, I don't know. Anyway. Okay. Have a good weekend, guys. Bye.